It's an issue now basically synonymous with American cities, the rise of homelessness. Here in Washington, D.C., the numbers are staggering. D.C.'s annual The Point in Time count found homelessness went up 14% just last year. Today, city officials tried to clear out several encampments, and they say they will clear more out in the coming weeks. Hundreds of people who are homeless will be moved from their encampments. But does that solve the homelessness problem in any real way? As part of our Homeless in America series, I visited one of those camps with workers on the front lines of the crisis who think that what D.C. and the Park Service did today is actually in some ways going to make the problem worse.
The average American is only one paycheck away from being right here.
Just blocks from Washington, D.C.'s most picturesque landmarks, a community of roughly 70 people is being torn down. The residents scattered. It's on both federal and city land, and now the city and the National Park Service are both saying these people have to leave.
Our outreach team has been working diligently for months, helping people prepare, thinking about where you want to go, walking them through the shelter options, but there's nothing major. All the shelters are mostly full. We're doing everything we can to try to get people a solution, but for most people there's nothing definite that's being offered.
Staffers from the nonprofit Miriam's Kitchen have been going tent to tent, trying to help. This is one of 7 such encampments around Washington, D.C. that will be cleared in the next few weeks. The city says the closures protect residents from, quote, dangerous circumstances, such as fires, traffic collisions, assaults, and rats. The federal government says homelessness shot up 12% last year, with more than 653,100 Americans currently without a place to live. This is the highest and sharpest increase and the largest number since they began keeping records. And experts say this cuts across demographics and populations. It includes veterans and families with children. The city of D.C. says it will keep trying to help people connect with support services, including housing. But advocates say clearing these camps is not a solution. It's a setback. Moving the problem from here to there, but this problem's not solved.
Right, and that's the part of the history of this encampment. There's people who are living here who used to be at McPherson Square, who used to be at other encampments that are being cleared.
Advocate Wesley Thomas was homeless himself for decades, living on the streets near the White House, until he finally got help from an outreach worker like him.
I didn't know anybody, but it came to a point where I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I knew where to go, who to talk to turn my life around.
He says kicking people out of these encampments breaks trust.
They no longer trust the outreach workers. They no longer trust the city. And the main issue when you're displaced from an encampment is finding a safe place to rest your head. So all that goes away. And then they have to start all over again.
What's going to happen to these people when they're cleared out?
They're going to try to find another place to rest their head. But see, encampments are communities, there's safety in numbers.
So this is like a town almost.
Yeah, encampment's a community.
I mean, every person here has an individual story. You can see the big picture things. You can see people are here because they're very low income, and housing in DC and everywhere in the country is just far too expensive. You see people who, because of that economic vulnerability, if I am living with a mental health issue, if I am living with trauma, then I'm more likely to be here.
These individual stories, advocates tell me, are at the heart of the solution. One person finally getting a housing voucher, or another knowing how to access emergency rental assistance. Your shirt says end homelessness, your hat says end homelessness. How do we do it? How do we end homelessness?
One case at a time.
One case at a time.
One case at a time.
And this morning, outreach workers at that encampment in D.C. told CNN a few people have been placed in temporary housing, but the majority are just moving to more unsafe places, closer to dangerous roads, closer to overpasses, scattering throughout Washington, D.C., which makes it even more difficult for those outreach workers to help them get off the streets into homes.